Welcome back to the show.
Hey, what? I wasn't here before.
Our most astute listeners are wait a minute. I haven't seen Lucas on. I haven't heard the Lucas episode.
That's
I
right.
haven't heard the Lucas episode.
That's right.
I haven't heard. Lucas and I recorded I was thinking about this earlier. I'm like, I'm going to say that we recorded this riveting conversation that was just like our atoms were splitting in multiple directions.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's a pretty narcissistic thing to say. And just assume that we were so interesting and intelligent. But the story is that we recorded, I think it was like end of September.
Yes.
We recorded this but we recorded it with one of the microphones on mute. So it didn't really work.
So audio was a little bit off.
I'm like, shit, right? Because I feel so bad. But it was actually quite an interesting. Well, it wasn't that interesting of a situation, but it was you're the best person in the world for that to happen to.
It happens.
Yeah, but like if that had happened to me, I think I would have been a pissy little bitch.
Oh,
so, but you were so understanding.
You know,
I took you out for a burger.
Yes, exactly. Hey, you give me a burger, man. We're solid. But no, I mean, that's happened so many times doing videos, and then you go to edit it and you see that the mic didn't work, or you forgot to turn it on, or the battery died.
Yeah.
So I've been there so many times.
The tech stuff is so challenging. It's not like the tech when it works, it's so great.
Oh, yeah.
Like and all the AI that does the clips and all that now, it's so great. But it's just it's a huge barrier for a lot of people in certain things that they do online, right?
Absolutely.
It drives me crazy. But thank you for being so understanding. So, but either way, last time, like, there's no way we're going to repeat what we talked about last time, but it would be great if some of it we did. But we talked about your TEDx.
Okay.
We talked about just you're the speaker coach for Vancouver.
Yes.
So we talked naturally a lot about public speaking. So we're going to talk about that today.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about your experience at the Sweat Lodge up in Pemberton, which was amazing as well. We talked about your father passing away recently, which was also interesting to hear about. But no, I just remember last time I was like, God damn, because I always appreciate talking to you, but you're like, and especially because you teach people. And so when you're listening today, you're going to learn about being a confident public speaker. And this is what Lucas teaches people. Mm-hmm. But our whole episode, you were so vulnerable and authentic. I remember thinking those because you're always like, I was challenged in this situation. I was challenged in that situation. But you're, and a lot of people can be vulnerable, but yours was kind of next level vulnerability. So that's what I was kind of gutted of losing that conversation. Sure. But if it comes up again today, it does.
Hey, man. Appreciate the kind words, and we're gonna do it. It's gonna be great.
It is gonna be great. But I wanted, and before we got on here to catch up, we were catching up a little bit, but let's not do that anymore because I'd rather do it right here. But I wanted to ask you because we talked end of September, and now this is early November when we're recording this. It'll come out when it comes out. Well, what's up for you in between then and now? Like, how have you kind of grown yourself, or what are you kind of learning about yourself, or what do you like apart from like doing busy and doing the doing? Has your like being evolved at all?
Okay. Well, that's a great question. So yeah, it's funny. We didn't plan this, so I'm glad that you just brought this up. A lot has happened in the past 6 weeks where I had to make a very hard look in the mirror, and there was a couple things that had come up. And one of them was events not selling out. And that is my number one stressor. That's the one thing that even my mom, she'd always say to me, she's like, I love what you do. I don't like how stressed out you get because it's a live event. There's a timeline. It ends. And I know that my whole energy shifts. If it's about 2 weeks out and it's not full or close to there, I start getting a little bit anxious. But I start getting like a bit aggressive on sales calls because you start to get. I had a client of mine, John. He's a realtor. One thing he said, he called it commission breath. I thought it was hilarious.
What's that mean?
Commission breath. He's like, when you walk into the room and there's a realtors out there, and you could tell who's selling you. He's like, they just reek of commission breath. And I was thinking, like, damn, that's me. Like, get a little aggressive. So, looking at that, and I had to take responsibility and go, what actions am I taking to fill those events consistently?
Again, I can't believe you just went right to like the most vulnerable thing that anyone who is doing what you like, run events or coaching or whatever in the city, like, and the events that I put on, they're so fucking stressful, right? Because it's such a grind to get people to show up, and it drives me. And some people don't have that much of a. I mean, most people do, like 95%, and it's so, like, that is one of the reasons why I started this thing. So it's ridiculous that you should not easily have all your events sell out because what you do is so great. But it would be a lot easier if magically a lot more people knew about you, which is why we're doing this. Like, it drives me crazy. So I totally get the stress about the event. So the people who haven't ever put on an event before, just know that it is absolutely bonkers. It's so stressful because it's easy enough to come up with the concept. It's easy enough to do the Eventbrite or whatever. And it's so easy to post on social media, and then nothing happens, and it just drives you nuts. But I mean, you've been doing this for a while, so you have some other practices in place. So what did you come up with? Like, what shook out?
For sure. So I was even just talking with my marketing guy about it, and there's a couple things. He's like, he was asking me. I'm like, yo, I was kind of putting it on him, to be honest. I'm like, hey,
he's your marketing guy.
Yeah, we were working together. My events aren't filling. Like, this isn't working. And he's like, well, okay, well, how many emails did you send your list to promote it? I'm like, 0. I was like, okay. Like, that's really smart, right? Yeah. But he's being super nice about it. But like that, Google Ads, intro. He's like, you should do an intro night. How many talks have you done to groups to then get people in? And it's like, no. It's like, okay, so what have I been doing? Relying and kind of coasting on Google search, which I've been doing this for so long. I've got a lot of good domain authority out there, and leads come through, but it's not predictable. And it exposed a massive vulnerability, but I had to take responsibility of it and be like, if there's a big shift between the dreamer and the doer, and that's something to talk about events. You're saying a lot of people, they see these and they want to run their events. The amount of effort that's needed to go from being a dreamer to a doer is tremendous. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll put this workshop and I'll charge this much and I'll make this much. It's great. Yeah. But to actually execute is very, very challenging.
Yeah. I mean, I want to do monthly events centered around this podcast. Like, it's epic to get to know the guests and to get to know them, because I'm interviewing them, and then the folks that are listening get to know them. I'd love to get together once a month with the guests or do a live interview, whatever it is. But I could do that now, and I'd have to hustle my ass to get whatever the size, like 20, 40, whatever people to fill up.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, get the base of listeners, and then I believe an event on a monthly or whatever basis it is going to be a lot easier, because it's not, we can create like incredible experiences for people.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of, great ideas for that, and things that have worked as well. But, and call it an excuse if you want, but it's just not where I'm willing to put energy right now to herd the cattle.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to look at it. Is the effort worth the reward?
Yeah.
I mean, what you're doing right now is great.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe do this and you build up that base, and then you launch and you test it out.
But that's the thing, like for anyone in the city doing this stuff, if everybody knows you, and not everybody, enough more people know you, and if more people know you're the speaker guy, it's easier to fill your events.
Right? Absolutely.
But if I'm like, can I be honest?
Yeah.
If I don't know what your events are either, and I follow you on social media,
true.
Right? I don't,
That's
and
true.
I should know. And I promoted you in the summer at a couple things, and it should be lit like Lucas. He does quarterly events. They're called this, they're that, and it leads into this.
100%.
Right?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so even my marketing guy, these difficult conversations bring up so much clarity.
Yeah.
So we were going through. I am doing an intro event next Thursday, just as a way. That's one other way to get people in. So I had a great response to it, and there's that part of me like, wow, what an idiot! I should have done this years ago, but I didn't. So that's okay. Intro events, and then the other one too is. He's like, you need to do countdown posts. He's like, because to your point, if you follow social media, it's like, what does the guy do? Some videos, some content videos, some workout videos. That's it. But there needs to be something. It's like 2 weeks from today, speak with confidence. 1 week away. Tomorrow is the day. What you missed out on. Client success, client testimonials. 100%.
And this stuff is annoying, I find, right?
To do or to consume?
No, I like consuming it because I always I watch them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the people that do it the best, they like, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, there's 3 tickets left.
Right.
You're going to miss out on this. And then I'll buy it everyone buys last minute all the time.
Yeah.
But I will never buy anything. And I like, whenever I promoted events, I would do like one post and then cry because nothing would happen.
Yeah.
But you have to be consistent. And there are some people in the city that are quite good at it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But you can't expect anyone to buy with just like kind of one touch or one advertisement of what you're putting on.
I find it's the shift from delusion to reality, right? I mean, we'd all like to believe that. And I say that from my own experience. I remember the first YouTube video I did. I look back at how this would have been 2012. And I was just kind of sharing my story about stress management or struggling with anxiety and panic attacks. And I freaked out thinking, oh my gosh, this video is going to go out. I don't know if I'm ready for media. And this is how wildly insane and delusional I was. I drove to my cousin's houses because I'm like, oh, I need to tell them that I'm doing this because if I'm going to be in the news and get all this attention, and they should know first. They're going to be like, well, why didn't you tell us? So I went to their houses. I showed them the video, told them. And just a couple of them were like, why didn't you tell us you were struggling with anxiety or panic attacks earlier? That's the only feedback that I heard. And then 2, they're like, oh, good for you. But here's the thing, Michael. After that, I drove around to 3 different houses, showed my cousins, came back. I was doing this because I was scared of all the views and all the attention. And am I ready? And I had 11 views. Like 5 days later, 11 views. So my fear when I put the video out was, this is going to blow up. It's going to be so good. And then I put it out and I'm like, 7 of those views were my cousins and me driving around. So it's like,
and me on different devices at my house. I only got 4.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe 4 other people. That's hypothetically, maybe 4 other people, right, would have seen it. But it was interesting. The mindset goes from, am I ready for all this attention, to, wow, I need to put a lot of effort to get seen and noticed.
Yeah. So where have you landed with now? Like you got a new marketing perhaps approach coming up. Like what else has been going on? Like what else came up from that, or what else has shifted over the month of October? How you feeling November going towards the end of year type thing?
Feel great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I think the economic outlook has never been worse in recent memory. Yeah. And I feel the most confident moving forward. But like my November, I have an event at the end of November. It's sold out.
Thank you.
Yeah. End of January is my next one because Christmas holidays. That one, I have 3 spots left for it.
Nice.
But it's this combination of tactics, of actual marketing tactics. But the bigger part too is me of taking that responsibility. But like, Luke, you haven't been executing like you should. You're dropping the ball. Get your shit together. And it's cascaded to a number of events. Like I had a friend call me the other day on Friday. He's like, hey, what are you up to? I'm like, dude, it's Friday at 2:30. What the hell do you think I'm doing? He's like, whoa. I'm like, I'm obviously working. He's like, well, it's just a question. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's a bit of a dumb question, because what do you expect someone who's running a business to be doing at Friday? I'm not at 2:30. I'm not drinking daiquiris at the bar.
But isn't that the point of being an entrepreneur? So you can take Friday afternoons off.
I mean, sure, but then you work Saturday. Like, but it's a whole shift though. It's I've doubled down on my commitment to implement everything that has bothered me. I looked at it. It's all a reflection of my actions or lack of actions.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. And I get that with this podcast too, with me. Like it's the most solid thing I've ever done. It's not perfect in any sense, but it's because I'm a lot more solid than I've ever been. But even looking back towards like September, that's kind of why I asked you that question, because I'm also asking that of myself. And we were talking beforehand about career and relationship stuff, and so both of those are more solid in my life. And that and you're not always in control of those things, I guess could be a point. But how you show up in one way is tied to how you the rest of your life, and how what's going on all over the place there as well.
Are those the 2 biggest things that have shifted for you over the past 6 weeks?
Yeah. What have I been doing? I'm starting a new job coming up in a few weeks. I'm super stoked about it.
Nice.
Relationships a lot more solid. Like that's number 1. Like that's always been number 1 for me. Mm-hmm. And then I've been doing podcasts. So I feel good. I feel great.
There's a big variable there. It's like doing podcasts it's an action. It's an event you go through. I'm focused on the intention behind it. It's like, how are you showing up different 6 weeks ago doing your podcast from this? Because at the end of the day, you hit record, you talk to some people, you can just go through the motions. There's a massive variable in terms of your intention.
Yeah, and someone asked me that today because he's there's someone I've been looking to get on the show, and he's putting me like multiple emails and like really wanting to get granular on the mission and the purpose behind it, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I really like that. You know, he is who he is, and I like going through that motion, and he doesn't want to waste his time.
Sure.
And he doesn't know me personally, so there's that element as well. So if you see me on social media or online, you're like, just another influencer or whatever.
Sure,
and
sure.
He hates that. And I also hate that. So right. I get it. But, you know, I was answering his email today. I had to think about it for a couple of days. He's like, mission and purpose. Well, you know, I'm selfishly, I get to talk to people in Vancouver that otherwise I perhaps would not have. So yeah, 100%. Selfishly, I get to grow my network. It's a great move. It's awesome. But also, I also know a lot of incredible people like you that I get to introduce to my audience, right. my network. Like this is like people should be going to your programs for public speaking in Vancouver and beyond. But I have a network of people and I have great conversations with them. So I get to share that. So it's good and it's incredible. But yeah, what's the mission and the purpose and what kind of is the end game? So what I wrote in this email to this guy today, I'm like, well, and like we were talking about before we started as well, like who you met the other day and you didn't know who they were.
Right,
but I'm like,
right.
And he was somebody, but it was really like, you didn't know that he was somebody, but you were just having a good conversation with him, and he's a good, solid guy,
yes.
And he's been in the chair over here getting interviewed. So that's the point, though.
Right.
We're all just regular dudes and dudettes in the city, good people doing good things. So if somebody is listening, like what I wrote in this email, I'm like, well, kind of one of the goals is for the listeners to eventually be the guest.
Right. Love it.
If it's someone out there trying to do something, be something, create something, listens to these other regular leaders, people on the show from Vancouver, and gets inspired and overcomes all the fears and all the things, and eventually, does the thing. Like that's kind of great, right?
It's amazing. Michael, on that, it's very interesting you mentioned that because last night, are you familiar with Theo Vaughn, the comedian?
No, but I just booked a restaurant in Seattle, and it was named Vaughn.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
okay, all right.
Absolutely
unrelated.
Completely unrelated.
There's also Vaughn's on Denman.
Yes.
If you want a halal burger, go down there.
And if I was into editing the podcast, I would cut this part out. This is absolutely useless. Anyways,
that's what people like it. So Theo Vaughn, he's a comedian, but he has a podcast and he does YouTube episodes. And I saw his video. His last guest was a New York garbage man, and I was watching clips of it, and it was hilarious. And I was going through the comments, and a lot of the comments were like, you need to bring on more, blue collar people that they just have amazing stories, because the criticism they're getting is this isn't the circuit of the 12 comedians who just hop on each other's show constantly.
Yeah.
It's the same people that are just interviewing each other. Yeah. And it was just it was a breath of fresh air. And I thought the episode was very entertaining and real, the average person's struggles and overcoming those challenges. I think it's very interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
It's very relatable.
Yeah. So how did my answer land?
Oh, well, your answer, it landed. I mean, you want to connect great people in Vancouver and expand them, get more exposure.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to interview the people that I get on the show are like people, it's a balance of them having influence and followers, because that's how you kind of grow the show, right? That people have, like I would have someone on that has absolutely zero audience if they have an incredible story, for sure. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make a lot of sense in the beginning when you're trying to grow a little bit of an audience.
100%.
But I'm game for that, to get people on here with great stories, and I get to hear them and get inspired from them.
Yeah.
But it is a balance between people that have following and that have influence, and you get them on there and you sort of build a brand that way. But yeah, for me, no, it's a good check-in, because if there is no mission and purpose and end game, but otherwise, like also like who the hell cares? It's just kind of fun.
Well, that's more from your side, and that's the mentality, which is great, because it's like, hey, just have fun with it.
Yeah, which
is, I think, the foundation.
Yeah.
But then if someone else is coming in and it's more strategic.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Who's your audience? What's the demographic? What are you doing? How's it being positioned? I used to do a thing with being a guest on different podcasts. One guy was really interesting. He's like, hey, let's just hop on a quick 10-minute call And we just hopped on Zoom, had a quick chat. And he's like, look, I'll be honest with you. I just had this 10-minute call, just kind of get an alignment check, make sure it's a good fit. There's a good vibe, because I've had it in the past where it's just, we have nothing in common and it's just awkward. And he had it was a third party that was connecting us for his podcast and me as a guest. And he's like, I've had some duds. And so he's like 5 minutes into it, he's like, yeah, this is going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, inspiring conversations with leaders around town. It's a good dance.
Love it.
So appreciate the question. But let's do you know other, you obviously know other speaking coaches and trainers in Vancouver, but do you know any that are better than you?
No. I will say this. I'll qualify the answer, because some people might take that in a way that's quite arrogant. But there are speaker trainers that are better than me in certain areas. Okay, so whether it's speechcraft, there's people that are better than me at that. If it's like bringing theatrics on stage, the performance aspect, there's people that are better than me for sure. But in terms of overcoming the nerves and the fears and really getting into what's creating them and building somebody up to be more confident, there's nobody better than me in North America. I'll say that right now. And I'll put myself up against anybody. If there's a challenge, we'll have two nervous individuals and let's see who can help them.
So,
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. That's what I thought. But it doesn't make sense for me. I mean, I can say that, but it's better coming from you, and because we can hear that we know it's true. But what's the story though? Why do you know that?
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, if we look at most public speaking training, what it is, it's the best practices. The tactic is, if we boil public speaking down to its simplest forms, there's two things. It's what to say and how to say it. Right? Very simple, high level. But when you can know what to say, you can know what to do. Most of my clients come in, they're experts, they're professionals. They've been in the role for 10 years or the industry 10 years. They know what they're talking about. So why are they nervous when it comes up in front of a large group? And they'll say, oh, this is really weird. With one-on-one or a couple of people, I'm totally comfortable. But when it's 20, 30 plus people, something happens to me. I get nervous. I can't find my words. I hate it. I dread it. So if you can talk to one person, logically, you should be able to talk to 1,000 people. You're just getting up saying the same message. This isn't a logical journey. This is actually an emotional journey. And that's where people need to hone in on to understand the nerves and overcome them.
And that's what I do. Yeah. And I got a follow-up question. I don't know if I'll ask it or not. Maybe I'll save it to the end. I know the answer that I want to happen. But that's what I do when I'm public speaking. It's conversational. My public speaking is very conversational. So I think I'm looking at someone, and the presence is huge. I don't know anyone with better presence on stage than I have in Vancouver.
Love it. I believe you.
But you zone in on someone in the audience and you're talking to them. There's 50 other people in the room, whatever. You're just looking at this person and you're talking to them.
Right.
Hard to do, right? In theory, but actually not, right? You're looking at them. You're not thinking about anything else. But you're just talking directly at them. It's very powerful.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In terms of engagement, of effectiveness, of impact, absolutely essential to do that.
So, but it's an emotional thing.
Yes.
But where did your entry into public speaking come? Because and you talked about anxiety attacks before.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last time, but we'll pretend
we didn't.
Yeah, because it's important, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we can pat ourselves on the back as much as we want. And the story is one of the stories is that we did our TEDx together in Vegas almost 3 years ago this January. So but we knew each other before that. But where was your entry into public speaking? And there's a good story that comes with this as well. I'm gonna turn the fireplace on. I'm cold.
Oh yeah,
sure. Yeah, I'll get it. But yeah, where did public speaking start?
Do you want to answer?
Answer.
Okay. I'll talk to empty.
I'm just going there.
Let's just go there. Okay.
Public speaking.
Yeah. So how I got into it. So the interesting thing with that is there's no masters of public speaking that you do.
There isn't.
There's no training program. Maybe I'll start one. Maybe I'll start a certification program.
Yeah.
And I'm an accidental entrepreneur, so I never wanted to get into public speaking training or even business in general.
Yeah.
I struggled with anxiety from 14 to 29 all throughout my high school years and then university years as well. But I didn't know it was anxiety, so I thought I was always having a heart attack. I just feel like, oh, something's coming over me. I had to like leave the room or try to get my breathing under control. That was a whole journey, right? That was a whole journey. Went through doctor.
How often would that happen?
Well, situational was the big variable. So wrestling every day, multiple times in practice. Yeah, it would always come up when I was in a hold and I couldn't get out of it. Then I'd just my heart would start accelerating and I'd freak out. Day to day, I was okay.
Yeah.
But for the most part, but like crowded rooms, parties, and definitely wrestling would bring it up because I couldn't escape. So that would continue on for a long time, but I was embarrassed and ashamed. And so, because I went to an all boys school, grade 8 and 9. So on the wrestling team, there's 80 guys on the team. And I kept thinking I was having a heart attack. I had to run out of the room, go to the washroom, throw water on my face, then come back. And, I'm looking around the room going, nobody else is doing this. Mm-hmm. So there's something wrong with me. That was the internal narrative, right? I'm weaker than everybody. I'm not as strong as them. Something wrong with me. And so when you feel ashamed, you don't get help because you don't tell people. That continued to 29, got laid off from my job, went to the doctor, the panic attacks and the anxiety got a lot worse with losing a job. It's like I lost my identity. Who am I? The doctor looked at me and he goes, "You look terrible. We need to get you some serious help." I said, "Okay, I wouldn't disagree with this." So I got sent to Burnaby General Mental Hospital, the mental health ward. I met the psychiatrist. He's like, "Okay, you have panic disorder. You're going to have to make some changes. You're going to go through our exposure therapy. You do this, you're going to overcome this." And I remember that was a turning point in my life. His name was Dr. Warch, but he introduced himself as Paul. And Paul, I just found out that he recently passed away. I was so sad because he's just an amazing human. He approached me with jeans and a sweater, and I was expecting a lab coat and a clipboard. And he was like, "Hey, I'm Paul." And I'm like, "Hey, Paul, I'm Lucas." We went in, had a chat, and he's like, "Yeah, we're going to get you into the stress management recovery program. If you do what I say and you follow through, you'll." And I was like, "You're telling me one day I'm not going to feel like I'm having a heart attack?" And he goes, "Yes, if you do this, you can get over it." And I'm like, "Man, you tell me what to do, I'll do it." And I did it. And I haven't had panic attacks in years.
Wow. So was this did you come and go from the facility to do this, or
yes.
were you there?
Yeah, that's a big, that's a big question. So sometimes you think I was locked up. That's kind of the impression that they get. And no, it wasn't. I drove myself to the hospital, went there, and then I didn't, to be honest, I didn't stay there very long. I think I went to 2 or 3 sessions. But what I gained was, he's like, I had to stop martial arts, take up yoga. There was a few things I had to do to lower my stress levels, and the exposure therapy. So I actually stopped going to the program, and I just started doing yoga, personal development work, and actually martial arts, Krav Maga. That changed my life in Yaletown. There was a gentleman there, a teacher, Danny, that changed my life there. And it was just about the exposure therapy and facing your fear, getting comfortable with it, overcoming it.
And so what is exposure therapy? Is that exposure therapy is doing things like Krav Maga and doing things like yoga that's different than what you were doing before? Or it's not like exposing yourself to electromagnetic pulses or anything?
It's not that. It's not flashing people.
Yeah.
Just
could be that.
Just exposure therapy.
Then we would need therapy for your exposure.
I got a trench coat. No, it's not neither of those. It was about finding scenarios that push your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And bring up that fear response where I want to run. And Krav Maga was a life changer for me because it gave me a place to consistently have my fear in my face and then overcome it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you started learning how to overcome what do you think the root of all that was, all that anxiety was?
There's many different thoughts, and it really comes down to belief systems. So I believe in a past life, something happened to me, and that something was I got drowned and died. Like I got murdered because I started developing this phobia of water, and like I was drowning and panic attacks would start up then. But when I was younger, I would swim. It was no problem. So I went through some hypnotherapists, and through this journey, they're like, "Oh yeah, well you were drowned in a previous life." And I'm like, I don't know, but I imagine the sensations that I feel with panic attacks, it's similar to like I'm being drowned.
Interesting.
And the water did bring up a lot of anxiety and panic. So
it was kind of believing that or becoming aware of that would diffuse that. Help to diffuse that.
Yeah, just awareness is good, and then it's mostly the actions. Really, it's having tools. So when I was struggling, this is the scenario before. No awareness. So I didn't know what panic attacks were. I thought there were heart attacks constantly. Not sharing, so you're not going to get any help. No tools to minimize or manage pre-panic attack. No tools to help you during a panic attack. And then you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed at the end, and you feel hopeless. And the worst part with it is that you end it when you don't have tools or awareness. You just think, I hope that doesn't happen again. But you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know what you can do. So you're constantly in a state of high alert, but also you feel like a victim because you're going, I almost felt like my mind was betraying me because what was I doing to cause this? And it just, boom, comes out of nowhere, right?
So you start learning the tools to adapt. So either if it happens again, you can work through it or to prevent it from happening.
Yes. Step one was with Paul. It's just naming it. So this is, okay, panic disorder. Great. Cool. Now, 2, lifestyle changes. Yoga instead of martial arts in the beginning because my cortisol was too high. Slow it down. Reset your baseline. 3 was like avoiding alcohol. That was like a big one too, to avoid these things. And then exposure therapy, slowly building yourself up.
So dude that has panic attacks gets into somehow a couple steps to excelling in public speaking.
Yeah.
How?
Long story. So 1, overcoming my own panic attacks was with Krav Maga, doing that. 2, I joined a mental health group. It was a youth group where people would just share their stories to destigmatize mental health. So I was a panic attack guy. My buddy Brent, who also unfortunately passed away recently, he was a schizophrenic guy. So he was there. And then we had like someone bipolar, someone with depression, a whole bunch of different. We'd go to different youth groups and just share our stories to destigmatize, and started doing that. And it was really nerve-wracking to talk about something so personal. But I was using the tools that I use in my personal life with panic attacks and anxiety in the speaking. So from there, some people started saying, hey, could you work with us? And so I started doing stress management training individually. A couple of companies asked me to do that. And it was actually Cactus Club where everything changed for me because I was doing stress management training for one of their departments. And then their HR person's like, hey, a lot of our staff is great. They're talented, like younger staff, but they're great in their departments. But when it goes to meetings with senior management, they just shut down. And she asked me, she's like, could you create a program for the stress of public speaking? And I'm like, yeah, let me try that out.
Nice.
That's wicked. So that's where it changed.
I love that because I was thinking about this earlier today, specifically because public speaking is not just keynote talks in front of a room full of people. Public speaking is every moment of every day when you open your mouth 100%. In public, right? Yes. And especially in the workforce, let's just say in the workforce, right? Because whether it's just, everywhere, right? Everywhere.
Absolutely.
It could be whether you're leading a conference call or when it becomes your turn to speak at the table. I love that. I'm like, here's my 4 seconds of, to get my idea across, transfer the information, make people feel safe and not give them anxiety by things I say. I find it quite fun, but all these different moments throughout the day, if you're in a junior position and you meet someone in a senior position, how you show up and talk to them is huge.
Absolutely.
So public speaking it's not just doing a performance and putting together a TEDx or whatever. It's each and every moment of every day, but it can be such a wicked, powerful tool to help people in their careers and their lives.
It's a superpower in the business world today. It's absolutely a superpower. Actually, Warren Buffett talks about that, where he says that he underestimated the value and the importance of the skill of public speaking. That's the first thing. It's a skill, not a gift. A lot of people think that you either have it or you don't. It's a skill. You can develop it. That's number 1. But number 2, with Buffett, he estimates that it increases your market value by upwards to 50%, because doing your role, your tasks, that's expected. But most people are afraid to speak in public, or they're nervous, or they're just not good at it. If you can do that, you instantly leapfrog everyone else because, like to your point there, Michael, in a boardroom, There's a third category of people that have ideas, but they're too afraid to raise it and speak. So what happens? They get overlooked. And then if you're being overlooked and you're not speaking up, you're not seen as a leader. In today's world, it's the exposure era. So if you are not putting yourself out there, you don't exist. Leaders are expected to be confident speakers. So it limits their promotion ability and their career progression.
I just love it. I'm like, if someone would wants to, everyone wants to be successful. I don't know many people that don't.
It's true.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. Like, who doesn't?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to make more money and have a better job?
Right.
And but everybody does.
Yes.
This is one of the biggest things. It's relatively simple equation. Get better at public speaking.
Absolutely.
And again, it doesn't mean you got to put on a whole show or anything, but it really is a powerful tool. So who that you work with has that realization and goes, no, I don't want to be a TEDx speaker, but I need to get better at communicating with other people. And when I'm on the phone or when I'm in a meeting or whatever it is, like who do people come to you with that realization? Like, I just need to get better at this one thing.
Well, they do. So typically it is around public speaking, but I do have a significant percentage of clients that like, I never want to do a talk. I have no aspirations to do a presentation. I'm like, okay, what is it then? I want to lead my meetings more effectively. I want to raise my hand in a boardroom. I want to feel better about myself, because that's the thing that happens when they don't do it. Then they typically, they have that short-term relief, like, oh, I didn't put myself out there. But then they go, oh my God, I missed an opportunity. I should have done this. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about like how, like maybe some tips on like how to do that, like how to get better in the boardroom and doing things like that. But first, let me share. I'm in a kind of a state of a mood today of just patting myself on the back of it, and I don't care. I do this all the time.
Love it.
And usually I never get to share with anyone, but I get whatever. We gotta boost ourselves up. But I went to, like, I have so much, and it's about public speaking. So I have so much fun public speaking, because once you get into it, and I still get nervous all the time, but I did like a 30-second promotion for the podcast last Friday in front of a room of 100 or so people. So you get 30 seconds to go up there at the end of the presentation. And you get to pitch the podcast and stuff. So I was thinking about this all week, right? And I have 30 seconds, right? I had like 6 sentences or whatever it was. So, but I get nervous 100%, but also quite fun. But so what? I'm just going to share my what I did, because I know I think it's interesting. But like, I wrote out what I was going to say. Like, I wrote everything out, and I obviously memorized it. And I like, again, it's 30 seconds. So I memorized it throughout the week. But I guess the point is, it was just such an experience of such a tiny piece of content, a tiny moment of the week that took, like, I thought about it all week, and I practiced it all week. And then I got up there and I fucking nailed it, right? It was so fun. Like, like half the room was laughing and I was laughing. And, but it does take work, and it does take effort. And there are certain things that you can do to make it impactful. But again, it's such a skill that anyone can develop. Because I was never a public speaker. Like growing up, my sisters and my parents, like one of my, I don't know if I ever told you this, but one of my nicknames was Grunt.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because that's how I would speak.
Oh. All right.
I didn't like talking.
Right.
Yeah. Because I was too lazy and had nothing that I thought to say. So I just make noises.
Interesting.
Yeah. My father specifically called me Grunt.
Well, what a transformation then.
Anything's possible.
I mean, from Grunt to hosting a podcast. Yeah. But doing your own shows, one-man show.
That wouldn't have been a very good show or a podcast if you can't speak.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
Hell yeah, I love it.
So let's talk about someone who wants to kick ass in meetings, right? You know, what are a couple things that they can, if someone's listening to this, it always comes out on Tuesday, maybe they're listening on Tuesday because they're our best listeners, and they're hosting a meeting on Wednesday, or maybe they're doing a mini retreat the Wednesday night or something. They've got to speak for a minute or two in front of people. Like what can people do, or what are some things to prepare? Like in my instance, I wrote it out, I practiced it. You know, and for my bigger talks, I record them,
right?
And I listen to the audio, and it sounds horrible the first time, and then it gets better. But what are some things that people can do?
Yeah. So if we're looking at it, we got to start off with going at the common obstacles. And again, this is done. One thing is, I'm not here to talk about typical best practices and delivery tips, because you can get that anywhere. That's easy. But where our specialization is, it's about the inside out journey of the personal development side of public speaking. A lot of people don't think it's a personal journey, but it absolutely is. You want to show up and shine on stage. Well, it's inside out. And so first things we want to look at is some questions. It's number one, are you saying what you really believe, or are you saying what you think people want to hear? That's the first question to ask yourself, because that's a filter. A lot of times people go up, and the typical speaker, I call them survival speakers. And survival speakers are nervous. They get up, they hate the spotlight, they're not comfortable with it. They rush through their content as quickly as they can and get off the stage, because the faster they can get off the stage, the less probability that they screw up, that they look bad. Okay. But then that's counterproductive to your goals of being a leader and connecting with an audience and being present. But it's done from a survival state, because people are like, oh, well, I don't want to. And a lot of times it's subconscious. They don't want to do that. But most people, they speak and they want to be liked by the entire audience. The first thing is, you got to understand that you won't be liked by the entire audience, and nor do you want to. So that's the first thing, is you know that you will be judged. That's the first one. You will be judged. Knowing that you're going to be judged, now you go, okay, well, I'm going to attract only the right people and repel the wrong people by being my true self. And when you do that, that gives you permission to share your authentic voice. Because if you're not trying to win everyone over, and you know that there's going to be a percentage of the audience that doesn't resonate with your message, then you're like, all right, well, let me attract who really does. Okay. That's the first thing I would do. Second is, the mindset needs to shift that you're a problem solver. And this is a huge mistake that I see a lot with speakers, be it leading a meeting in a boardroom, raise their hand, or presentations. People get up, and a lot of times they want to talk about themselves, like the standard presentation. Hi, I'm Jennifer from XYZ Consulting. We have 25 years in the business. We help clients. Who cares about that? As opposed to the mindset of a problem solver. It's like the audience doesn't care about you. They care about getting their problem solved first. So if you show up and go, look, this is a common struggle that happens. Today, I'm going to share with you a few things that we can do to turn that around and get you on the right track. By the way, I'm Jennifer from XYZ Consulting. We've 25 years. Like, shifting it around that you're a problem solver. When you get in that mindset, your content's going to shift completely.
I like that. And it can be, and again, back to this talk I did last Friday. My goal was to say as little as possible.
Right.
And so I was like erasing sentences, making them as concise as possible. Because the idea is not to fill the room with words.
Yeah.
The idea is to get the information across so that it lands.
Yes.
And people feel something.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And if it takes 2 sentences, you're done.
Yes.
Right? We don't need to just be filling the air. And but yeah, I was thinking back to an engineering conference I was at earlier this year, and your survival
speakers.
There's so many of them, because they just run up, they say the thing, they read the sheet, and then they run back down. They're like, oh, yes, I survived. I'm like, that was like, it was fine, but that was a real missed opportunity. You got a room full of hundreds of people, influential engineers, big conference that I was at, and they're just like trying to survive. Right. That was a huge missed opportunity. You could have gone up there, said your thing, made it land, taught something, made people feel something. And then, my name at the end is Jennifer, whatever.
Right.
I'm sitting over here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a missed opportunity. And a lot of times, though, I find people continue doing what they've always done unless there's urgency or So my clients typically call me in 2 scenarios. Number one, they have a talk coming up and they don't want to be a survival speaker. They don't want to blow it. That's their fear. Or 2, they did a talk and it went sideways and they go, I'm not going to have that happen again. So I've noticed that urgency is a big driver, because otherwise, even these survival speakers, people can create a rationalization to avoid discomfort. So for example, I'm an engineer. I'm more behind the scenes. I'm not in sales. I don't need to be good at this. I just need to get, and they'll have a narrative. I got the information across. That's all that's required. Yeah, sure. That's the lowest level of speaking. But I mean, If you're a box ticking speaker, then yeah, you got the info across. Great. But you're not going to be impactful. You're not going to be remembered. You're not going to be sought after.
Yeah. To be clear, we're talking about things to be sought after, impactful speaker. Yeah. And yeah, everyone else, the get by speakers, they get up there and they'll start apologizing and go, "Oh, I'm a horrible public speaker." And the other one, and they're like, "Oh, we have 75 slides. Oh God, oh, we're gonna have to get through it here. I don't blame you if you play on your phone a bit." And again, did I mention I'm a horrible speaker? Right. So I'm an engineer. So if you just want to skip to the end, we'll email out the slides. You can just look at them after. All right, we better get going here. Don't even bother, right?
Well, yeah, definitely don't bother. And also, it's so counterproductive as well. The narrative of people get up and they'll say, "Oh, I'm really nervous to be here." So why do they say that? They're saying it because they're trying to buy sympathy from the audience. Because they say, "Oh, if I'm nervous, then maybe they'll be easier and they won't judge me so hard." But it works against you because now the audience is going, "Why are you nervous? You must not be an expert. It is going to be a waste of my time." And then this is the worst one. You're priming the audience to pick you apart. Like the thing that you don't want them to do, which is judge you. If you get up and you say that you're so nervous, the audience is automatically going to start looking for signs of your nerves. Completely distracting from the message.
So how, and this, I enjoy this conversation. Right. This is okay with you, right?
Yeah, of course.
What's the opposite of that? How can you not, what's one way to not, if you got to talk tomorrow night in front of 20 people, whatever, you got to introduce someone, or maybe that's it, or maybe it's on a Zoom call. What's one way to not be so, even if you are nervous, nervous means excitement. Yeah. But what's one way to not be nervous when you get on that stage?
Well, that's the first one is accept that nerves are part of the journey. That's the first thing. I find that in the West, people try to push it away. I don't want this feeling. I don't feel nervous. Look, you can be nervous. It's all energy as far as I'm concerned. There's nervous energy and excited energy. So you could be nervous because it could go sideways and it could be bad. Absolutely. But counter that. This is what I would say. Number one, why am I excited about this? Anchor to the excitement. That's the first thing. Second, know that our inner critic is typically quite high. So you're not going to be as bad as you think that you are. That's the second one. Third, it's polarization. Go up there. Look, I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to share my authentic message. Some people are going to like it. Some people are going to be neutral. Some people won't. That's okay.
And that's the inner journey, right? That's 100%. The personal development there, to be able to get up, be fully you. Because if you're not you, if you're putting on any sort of a mask or something, then automatically that's preventing you from connecting with the audience.
Absolutely.
If and often, was it you I was talking? No, it was. And there's a right or wrong answer to this question I'm about to ask you. Maybe I should ask. Either way, Devin that was here, that I interviewed him, and he talks about interconnectedness and relationships and men and women and stuff like that. He was talking about, I was talking to him about how men specifically, and women too, their voice goes up when they get nervous, or if they're ordering something from a restaurant or a coffee or something, or being on stage.
Right.
And as soon as that happens, right, you connect this disconnect with the person you're trying to speak with and be with. But, it's one thing just to say, be aware of your voice, be on voice, don't let that go up. But it's another to be comfortable in more situations in life. And I think that, at least in public speaking, at least for me, comes with doing the reps as well and doing more of it.
Absolutely, Michael, you're absolutely right with that. And the upspeak that you're referencing to, it's where the tonality goes up. It can turn a statement into a question. It's like, "I'd like you to come over." It's like, are you saying you want me to come over? Or you're not? Is that a question or is that a statement? Right. That's the one thing that happens. And a lot of times that can diminish someone's power. And it is typically more females that do that. But the other part too is when it comes to volume, people ask, yes, there's the vocal projection. Of course, we could talk about that. But the inner question that matters more is, do you feel deserving to be heard? A big question. But there's a range. A lot of times all of clients come in, so they go from they're past survival speakers, but they're comfortable speakers now. But they want to be inspiring speakers. They want to be transformational speakers. The bigger journey, yes, it's crafting the message and the talk. Sure, we can do that. But the bigger message, the audience is a mirror. Like, that's something I'll say to you right now. People come on and they're like, oh, I want the audience to be less judgmental, or I don't want them to be I don't want them to be hard on me. And then I reflect the question back, how hard are you on yourself? Well, very. Well, what the hell do you think you see now? So when you understand that the audience it's a mirror, it's a reflection of how you feel, well, now you have responsibility. That can be uncomfortable because people are like, oh, hang on. I thought I could just learn some tactics and this would go away. No, this is a personal journey. The good news is that you're in control. But that question of, do you feel worthy of speaking? That right there, it's an uncomfortable question, but it can unlock a tremendous amount of power, because maybe someone goes, you know what? Not really. Great. Now we know where to look. Get the shovel out.
What is the shovel? Where do you start? Where do you go from there? Like, it's an incredible question.
Everyone's different though. So most people that I see, every one of my clients, I've noticed a pattern. Worked with over 1,000 clients now over these few years.
Which is epic.
Epic for sure. Love it. Thank you. But one pattern that I see, people come in, they want to be more confident public speakers, whatever the setting is. But some point in their life, they had a scenario where they didn't feel safe to speak. They embarrassed themselves. They were humiliated, whether it was school, partners, family, society, culture. There's so many different variables. But at some event or events, they didn't feel safe to speak. They didn't feel comfortable. They were embarrassed, humiliated. And that reference point now is that public speaking is dangerous. Public speaking is a threat. And then that brings in the fear. So we have to go back to that, because otherwise it's Band-Aids on bullet wounds.
And then the most people that you work with, like, and I don't mean this to be a big advertisement for you, but
I'll take it.
Well, it's relevant, right? You've worked with 1,000 people, right? So we're not, like, what my point was, like, we're not just talking about the tips and the tricks. So to most people, when you get to this, when you talk about, like, becoming a better person, it's the inner journey. Are they all like, wait a minute, no, just tell me how many breaths to take between this, or tell me where to stand or where to look, and let's just get on with it. Yeah. Did they face resistance? Are they surprised, or did they kind of know?
That's a great question. So I'll say this: the tips and tricks people, I filter them out quickly. I have a call before, and I ask them, "Are you open to personal development? Are you into that?" And either it's a yes, or I've done it, or yeah, this is interesting. But we set it up. I've had clients. There's 2 examples I can think of someone that I knew wasn't a good fit, and it was a rough experience. I look back now why I took them on, even knowing that they weren't into this. It's because one was a referral from one of my best clients. And I thought if I said no to, it was his business partner, then it'd be disrespectful. So I'm like, no, I got to take him on. Ended up being a nightmare. And it wasn't his fault though. It was the wrong, talk about personal development. He's like, well, I just want the best practices. I'm like, dude, best practices, go watch YouTube videos, like read a book. Yeah. So people are either resistant because it's their personal journey and they can be, it's uncomfortable, definitely uncomfortable elements, or they're not sure if they can do it. But the other side too is that a lot of times people are actually relieved, because for so long it's been this thing hanging over their head, and their self-esteem has been going down because they're like, why can't I speak like those other people? So when you find out that you're the person, it's not your fault, right? These events happened when you were younger and they've cascaded through, but now you have an area to focus on. It's great.
And the thing that is, because the area you're focusing on is yourself, and you're getting better knowing yourself and your truth and who you are. Yeah. And so when you're on stage and you're speaking your truth and who you are and what you know and who you are, and you're speaking from that and what you know, in my experience, there's no wrong answer. Yes. So whatever you say it, if it's a truth to you and you say it with confidence and belief, you're not wrong.
Correct. People could dispute it though.
Sure.
Like they could argue the perspective.
Sure.
Not your experiences. And totally, this is the path I take people down. I go, everything, just qualify it. Personal experience. In my experience, this has worked best for me. You want to avoid absolutes where it's like, this is the way to do it. Yeah. It's like, well, you're opening yourself up to a can of worms.
Yeah. And I'm like, in my experience, but I say it with always like a footnote. If there is another truth or learning, I always want to hear it.
Of course.
Each and every day, right? Things, I mean, I'm learning things about the world each and every week that I was 1,000% wrong on
Absolutely.
2 weeks ago. It's way better to be informed.
Yeah.
Kind of hurts sometimes, but it's how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a personal development coach maybe 5-6 years ago, and we were having a session. He's like, look, he goes, every one of your challenges is based on your need to be right. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, okay. I'm like, could you explain that? And he goes, you feel that you need to be right in every scenario. And so when you operate from that place, for you to be right, others have to be wrong. And he's like, so I invite you to consider that there could be multiple answers to any scenario. And I remember I was so confronted with this. I'm like, well, so I took it a little too far the other way, where I'm like, okay, so what am I going to go do a seminar and be like, I don't know how to get you to become more confident. I don't know. My whole business falls apart. He's like, that's not what I'm saying. He's like, I'm saying that to take someone from being a nervous speaker to a confident speaker, you know a way, and it works, and it's worked. It's got great results. But be open that there could be 100 different ways. Like some people, maybe they go to improv, and that helps them get comfortable and do that. I don't teach it. Am I going to say that that's wrong? No. For some people, it could work. And that really, that opened up so much for me, Michael, because now I'm like, it took the pressure. I don't need to be right. So I'm like, hey, this is what it works. And some people are like, you know what? I want to try stand-up comedy instead of you doing your course. I'm like, cool, good. If that works for you, great. And if it doesn't, reach out. It allowed so much better flow.
That's a good question. It's a good. Yeah. Do you know that you have the need to always be right?
Yeah.
I will punch you in the face. Right?
You are wrong. That is incorrect. That is incorrect.
That's a good coach, though, right?
100%. 100%. He was great.
So, okay, all right. Now we're finally getting places here. But where do you need? So, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? You know, if you're the top dog in Vancouver, like, you know, what do you got to do to get there in the next 3 months or so? What's your game plan? And how do you you're working, you mentioned a marketing person that you're working with. Yeah. It's not necessarily a coach or something like that, but how do you, like, where do you get those mirrors for yourself? Do you have a coach of your own? How do you level up? How do you know when you need to level up? How do you know where you probably know where you want to go and what you want to achieve? Do you know how to get there? Are you in the right rooms? Jay Demerit, who was here last night for the interview, absolutely split my head in half. It was unbelievable. I can't. It was incredible, but so simple. Like, he's got a degree in industrial design. Okay. So, but the way he climbed from the 9th division, and I feel so intelligent talking about divisions in soccer, knowing nothing about them a week ago. Anyways, people listening to this podcast for the first time go, this guy thinks a lot about himself, right? But me specifically. Anyways, he shared last night how I don't care. How he went from the bottom league in Europe to the Premier League, which I understand is the top, which I understand is very hard to do. Mm-hmm. But he was so brilliant in the way he explained it, because he's just like, okay, well, that person over there has that skill. I need to get better at that. They're 3 divisions up from me, so I will do that. I'm going to ask these people over here that are 4 divisions up from me what I need to improve on. Right. And they told me I suck at this, I suck at that, I'm good at that. Okay, so I'm going to focus on the areas I'm not good at. And I'm going to work that for 2 to 3, 4 or 5 years. Like, it took him 6 years to do this journey. It was absolutely incredible. But the way he explained it, there's absolutely no ego attached to it. Right. He's like, that's my goal. I am here. I know I'm this. I'm putting in all this data, all this information. Yep. I need to improve these areas. So my point is, like, who are the people you need to talk to? Because there's so many people giving me podcast advice right now who don't have podcasts. And I'm like, that's interesting. No, I'm not. But instead, yesterday I was on a Zoom with podcast people, like, have podcasts that make money from podcasts and have people listening to their podcasts. Right. These are the people you get ideas and information from. But what do you do? Like, what do you like? How do you have those reflections for yourself about where you want to go in the next 3 months or so?
I mean, I do have my plans set up. I started going to Toronto, so I've got a multi-phase plan where phase 1 is Vancouver, build it up. Like I mentioned, selling out my events consistently. That's the first thing. That's my priority, is to do that. And I have the capacity to scale up with a co-facilitator to double that. So that's priority number one. Then Toronto, I've already started doing corporate training. I could do it so that I do them in different months, in 2-month intervals. So then I can go Vancouver 1 month, Toronto the next month, and do corporate gigs in the middle. And that alone will be great, life-changing actually, when I execute that. But then from there, I'm going to hit a limit where the next phase is to have people running the training for me. Because I'm going to be doing a lot back and forth. I can do that in the beginning to build it up, but then I got to let go, have other people do that. So that's the third phase. And then once that happens, I'm going to go into personal development training, which is my real passion. Yeah. And I say that sometimes people perhaps take that the wrong way, where they think that I'm not passionate about what I do with public speaking. And I'm not passionate about public speaking. That's true. But I'm passionate about personal development. And that's our lens. It's a bait and switch program. Yes, we'll give you the tactics to put a message together in the delivery. But that's the easy part. The hard part is that. So I've been doing public speaking, and that's part of my own evolution, really. And the fear is, can I actually pull that off and be seen as that and succeed? Got a successful business doing this. But if I stood out there and it's like, this is just 100% personal development, would I be able to do that and feel confident in it? And that's the current opportunity, but also the challenge.
So who do you have to become?
That's exactly it. A person that is like, hey, I have the best personal development training out there. Come in. And it's interesting. I've run personal development events a few times for my clients. It just opens up so much energy, because now I'm like, we don't have to speak on video. We don't have to look at the recordings. I was able to actually be fully into it. So it was a different experience, but I also look at it too. It's a journey. And for me, it's a recalibration of the nervous system, where I do it. I feel how that feels. I get comfortable with it. Then I can push it, go to the next level. I don't want to go too far, too quick.
Yeah. The challenge with personal development and workshops and things like that is kind of the marketing, though, or like I have found and heard in the past, like at least with public speaking, you know what you're getting yourself into, and personal development is it. Like if you go to market, like build your confidence or something, like, 'cause sometimes that, you agree, like sometimes that's more challenging. Whereas if you are selling public speaking, you're not selling building your confidence, but you have to build your confidence.
Right.
So sometimes I've seen, like, grow your confidence or manifest this or that. And sometimes it's hard for someone who wants to grow their confidence to admit they need to grow their confidence.
True. And it's also not a tangible outcome, where that's a big thing. It's a lot of people can connect the dots. They're like, okay, I'm going to invest this much to work with you. But if I was a confident speaker and I'm, say, an entrepreneur, if I spoke up and said yes to an event and I did a good job, I can make more money. It's a very easy financial loop. Or I'm in leadership. Leaders have to look good when they speak. If I work with you, it will fast track or help me keep my job or improve my potential there. So that is the challenge with personal development, is that it is vague. What's the reward? It's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's dance a little bit here,
right.
Because especially with entrepreneurs,
yeah.
and especially with putting yourself out there, especially what you do in training public speaking, is you have to be the person. Like you're the brand, you're the not just the facilitator, but you are the teacher. It's what's coming through. You are coming through, so you have to be on, which can be hard some days. But not only that, and like I was sharing before about different aspects of my life, career and podcast and relationship and stuff like that. So how do you how are the other pillars of your life these days, and what do you do to kind of put work towards them, be it relationship or family or health, whatever it is? Like, do you find one is ever neglected, or is one giving you pain right now, and you find that shines through in your business sometimes?
Yeah, I think it all ties in together. I think you want to be careful not to be too extreme. It's a fine balance, though. I mean, this whole thing of living in balance is like, is that is that sustainable all the time? I think sometimes you just need to go for it. You really do. That's just my personal.
How do you mean go for it?
Lock yourself in a room. Just be like, all right, I'm not, there's days that I'll be working and I get in the zone and it's just get it done. Put in just a monster day and you're just exhausted at the end of it. But there's a big feeling of fulfillment. And I'm like, sometimes I need those just get shit done days where it's like you block out the world and you go. Now, does that mean the next day maybe it's going to be easier? Yeah, but I find there's a balance. Like even at the gym, if workload is high, I'm not going to go to CrossFit because that's going to bump me up to I don't have the capacity for that, but I can do powerlifting. It's like it's
like energy balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Each and every day.
If I don't have the capacity or I'm being taxed, I'm not going to do something that's more taxing because then I'll be exhausted and then it's then I'm not productive anywhere.
What are you excited about these days?
I'm excited about business, to tell you that much.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's fun now that I've committed to it. Where
you've been doing this 10 years. You weren't committed?
That is, yeah. I've been, it's, so the journey's been from a hobby in the beginning. And I noticed a pattern. It was kind of like a hobby, but I was bartending part-time just to make, one place I was actually making money. The other I was making zero, but I had a dream. And then I got fired from that job.
Yeah.
So then, okay, I'm all in on the business. And then, but when I looked at it recently, I'm like, have I ever been all in and fully committed to the business? No, I've been committed as in...
You've been doing it 10 years, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
And I get that.
Okay. Well,
I get the same thing.
How many, people are engineers. It's like you have a job, but sometimes there's people that they can do it for 20 years, but they're just kind of coasting.
That's right.
And others are like, hey, I'm committed to be the best damn engineer.
And same
here.
with relationships too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think, that it's interesting that you bring that up around duration, because I feel that people have such a weird relationship, like especially in the entrepreneur world. You'll see it. Oh, hi, I'm so and so. We've been in business for 20 years. I'm like, yeah, but maybe you're terrible.
Yeah.
Like, this is almost like this equation where people ask me, how long you been in business? If you're using that to see if I get results, I'm like, it's not accurate. It's absolutely not accurate.
How many podcast episodes you done?
Right.
8.
Yeah.
Bite me.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Oh, or I've done 80. Oh, does that mean I'm awesome? Like, no, you could have 80 garbage podcasts and you could have 8 amazing ones.
Yeah. Yeah. But the also the flip side of that is like whatever work has gone into yourself,
sure, to
get to that time and space. So you got to feel good though if you finally hit this committed button now. You feel you got some horsepower.
100%. And a lot of it was, you kind of alluded to earlier, it's in the past maybe 2-3 months I've been feeling energy back. So even with entrepreneurship, like I had thyroid issues probably 8 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hypothyroid. That was happening.
Did those go away?
No, it doesn't go away. No.
Yeah, no, I didn't think that goes away.
No.
But you treat it, right?
Treat it, manage it, whatever. Yeah. So I remember that when I started getting my thyroid meds, I started feeling better again. I was like, because there was a while I'm like, I'm 33 years old and I'm passing out midday. Not because I'm lazy, I want to take a nap. It's like I'm just done.
Yeah.
Like this isn't normal.
Yeah.
But I've noticed, so that was okay. And then my dad was sick, COVID plus my dad being sick, that took up a lot of my energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Energy balance and really kicking in with that. But it feels good though, right? So what do you do for, you said you told me about your plan and you got your energy in alignment now, but like what are like, do you manifest? Like what's your sort of like, what do you, when you close your eyes at night? I ask a lot of people this, like, do you sort of dream of a vision? And like I dream of like that $8 million penthouse on Beach Avenue over there at the bottom of Butte. Wow, it's so nice. I looked at it again today on MLS. It's so nice. I really love it. One day it'll be mine. But that's what I do when I close my eyes. I'm like, I see myself reading my book there, watching the sun go down.
Right.
Do you do stuff like that? Do you believe in that? Do you think it works?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Everyone that sits in that chair has a different format, and they're like, yes.
Mental rehearsal, though. I mean, if you can see it, then you're like, okay, I can move towards it, and it becomes real. I'm actually reading a book right now called Transurfing Reality. It's very interesting.
Transurfing Reality.
Yeah, very interesting book. And one of the concepts there was about seeing it, but just acting as if it's the book's interesting. It's like it goes into mirrors and pendulums and all these different areas. But part of it was that when you could actually see it and really declare, it's like, okay, give this to me. Like, as opposed to like, oh, maybe, it's like, no, have that certainty. Then you're energetically, you're going to show up in a way it's just natural. Like, it's wild. I've been on this hot streak with sales calls where it's just like, yes, 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 nice. Yes. And I'm like, but I firmly believe it's the combination of energy, being in a great place, but also I'm speaking with so much certainty now that I'm like, yeah, you come in here and do it. Like, we'll get you the result. No problem. But, and then now I'm seeing it go. Whereas like literally 3 months ago, I'm just like, yo, I need to get people at this event. Like, this is terrible. One person says they can't make it. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't make it. Now I'm going to look bad. No one's going to be there.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. Well, what are the name of your events? And like, well, people can't go to the next one because it's sold out.
Right.
What about when this airs, there maybe 3 spots left in the January one. How do they get into it? What's it called? What's it for?
Speak with Confidence. Speak with Confidence is the training. It's a 2-day intensive training in Vancouver. Information, go to levelupliving.com. That's where the info is. And yeah, it's great. It's for professionals and entrepreneurs who want to become comfortable and effective public speakers, and they don't have a lot of time. That's the big difference too.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to go to Toastmasters and go there for 2 years because it's not a good use of their time. They want to get in, they want to have a transformational result, and they want to apply it and implement it every day. Like you alluded to earlier, every day is an opportunity to practice the skill. It's not just when you're doing a talk. So that's what we do. It's just, we bring you to face yourself. We use video for everything so that you see as a metric. It's uncomfortable, but it gets you quick results. And most importantly, we create the space and environment for you to step in your power. And now the question is, are you ready to step in your power?
If only we were recording that, because that would...
Oh, it's not recording?
No, it is recording. Oh. That's the question, right? Because you gotta be ready. You gotta be ready to do the work and also receive, right? Yeah. Like, how much longer? Like, time is tight here, right? We only have so many years, and if we wanna do our things, we got to get going, and we got to do the uncomfortable bits, and we got to sign up for things. And I haven't taken any training. Well, I'm doing singing lessons.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's so cool.
That's through Deidre's?
No, okay. Someone else. Incredible young woman over here named Kelsey at Pleasant Mountain Music.
Okay.
She's half my age probably. She kicks my ass every Tuesday. She's so kind. She's like, oh, that was okay. No, either way, I'm like a hot mess going in there, but I've gotten a lot better. And I think one of the aspects is just actually singing in front of another human.
Yeah.
Right? It's so powerful. But yeah, you got to be ready to kind of step up and level up in a certain way. So I was kind of thinking like, well, what's the next other way that I'm going to get to do that? But for a lot of people, like, go to courses and programs like this. I've taken so many over the last 5 years, so many, right. Thousands and thousands of dollars, right? Sure. And I'm so fortunate to be able to do that. And I get to share whatever has come out the other side of that. And I get to sit here with people like you.
Okay. It's great. And, the question is, are you ready for it too? I know sometimes that even is a journey where people are ready mentally, like their brain's like, okay, yes, I should do that. This is a good thing. And then from a emotion, nervous system level, they're not ready. Like, I'll have even some of my longer term clients, they sign up. Why? Because they want to get on stages, but then the procrastination that pops up, it's the resistance. One thing Tony Robbins says, that change happens in a moment, but what takes time is you being ready to do that. It's absolutely correct. People, to do a talk, for example, let's just raise your hand. For a lot of my clients, raise your hand, say yes, and do it. Well, that could take 5 minutes or it could take 5 months. Mm-hmm. But the real variable is the personal journey. And yeah, our time is finite on this planet. And it brings back to the regrets of dying. Like, the number one regret, there was a book by Bronnie Ware. The number one regret she had when asking patients, what's your top regret, is that I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not other people's expectations. And that's why I love public speaking training because we look at that lens. It's who are you, right? Who are you? And giving yourself permission to show up in the world authentically. I mean, that's going to help people avoid having that one massive regret.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah. This has been very inspiring. We have talked about nothing that we talked about last time.
It was completely different. Yeah. Right.
So we'll never, that conversation previously was just between you and me and the fireplace that wasn't on at the time. But this is
as meant to be, I guess.
As meant to be, always as meant to be. But I think people listening to this before the end of the year, you know, start thinking towards next year, like, gotta be fired up, right? Gotta, like, if not now, when? And if public speaking is the thing, and again, it's not just public speaking, it opens up confidence in so many other ways. But did we miss anything? Anything else is lingering?
Just thinking beginning of the year, if you want to kick ass, number one, embrace that you will not be liked by everyone. If you can do that, that's the first step. It takes away the pressure to be liked by everyone. Number two, it's be courageous. I think people often look at confidence, and the name of my course is Speak with Confidence, so that makes sense. But the necessary building block is actually courage. And that's taking action in the face of uncertainty. I don't know how this talk's going to go. I don't know if I'm going to be good enough. Great, do it anyways. Because that's where people, they want that certainty. And they go, well, if I know I'm going to look good, then I'll say yes, let's talk. Then you're not going to do it. So I think those two things, it's embracing you won't be liked by everyone, but you will be liked by the right people. If you combine that with courage and you start seizing actions, sharing your truth, putting it out there, you'll ensure that 2024 and beyond will be an amazing ride.
Well, thank you. I was just taking notes mentally right there. So I'm going to aim to piss some people off the first half of January, or ideally before then. But
the wrong people, man. The people that aren't, right? the people that are on, they don't resonate with the show. Great. Love it. And that's actually a gift, though. The world that we're living in, you know, a lot of people say, like, oh, fuck the haters and this and that. Why are we putting so much negative energy into this? Someone who's a hater or says negative comments about your show, for example, great, you're not a listener. Why do I have to get riled up about it? It's like you're actually doing them a favor, because now they're going, I don't like this thing. Okay, well, now they know they don't like it.
Yeah. Perfect.
Move them towards a direction. Find a show that you do like. Yeah. Or you're just a miserable person that needs to do personal development work because you're just hating on everyone.
Often the case.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. Awkward handshake.
Under the mics.
I think everything worked this time. We will check the tape, but I'm feeling good about this.
Love it, man.
But no, we'll have to check back in a year or two, right? Because I think good things.